This week on November 5th, 2025, we have a beautiful full moon in Taurus. But this lunation is coming right after a challenging Mars Uranus opposition that we're working with processing the first couple days of the week. So there's sort of a lot going on right now this week astrologically, and I'm excited to put it all together with you in this report. The Taurus full moon on Wednesday morning is beautiful. The moon is exalted in Taurus, and I don't want to downplay in any way the significance or the beauty, the positive significations associated with a Taurus full moon. But I do want to start with talking about the Mars Uranus opposition because this is a little bit unique and it's a little bit challenging, and it's a part of the story this week. But I hate to start a report where we have a Taurus full moon with something a little challenging. So just please hold in your mind the idea that we also are working towards this Taurus full moon. It is definitely not all doom and gloom. And I don't think that the Mars-Uranus opposition is a negative thing either. I think that these two signatures together are quite interesting. So let's go ahead and sort of get started talking about these in earnest. And let's start with this Mars-Uranus opposition. I have this chart here, and it's for Wednesday afternoon Eastern time. Mars will be in, basically direct opposition to Uranus at that time. So we're building to it over the weekend and into the beginning of the week. And this is a configuration that is a little bit ongoing because as planets pass over into Sagittarius and as we work towards Sagittarius season, they will do that more and more. They're going to come into an opposition with this Uranus, whether it's at the end of Scorpio, because Uranus is about to move back into Taurus, or at the beginning of Sagittarius, as this Mars is now. So there's sort of a lot of interesting stuff happening with with Uranus oppositions right now. We also have a Mercury retrograde that is going to be right around this same area. So Mercury was in opposition to Uranus just last week, and it's going to go through that process 2 more times. Mercury will be retrograde opposing Uranus, and then it will be direct opposing Uranus. But that is weeks down the road, and Uranus will be back in Taurus by then. But just to say, these oppositions are a part of a little bit of a larger process. I also want to mention how there's a little connection over here to Pluto. I don't even want to put it in the chart because maybe I should put it in the chart, but I'm just going to put it really faintly in the chart because I'm not reading this as a super major part of everything that we're talking about today. But I do think it's good to consider that Pluto is an aspect of these planets too. It adds a certain depth to everything that we're talking about. A heaviness, a seriousness, the fact that Pluto is involved. It adds those things to what's happening with this transit. I also think that talking about Sagittarius, early Sagittarius energies in sextile to Pluto energies, and then, or to Aquarius energies, and then Aquarius bouncing off of Gemini, this is expansive, future-oriented energy. So part of what might be coming in now in terms of this opposition, in terms of this confrontation, this breaking free opportunity that I'm about to explain a little bit more, that seems to be a part of this week, and therefore a part of this Taurus full moon, there's something about it that is related to the future that we're sort of quickly expanding into now. You know, we can see all of these different cycles in astrology. And this Jupiter Saturn trine coming together has really been reminding me of how far we've come into this new cycle. 2020 was a big moment. There was a lot that happened throughout the year. And at that point, I remember having my eye on 2024, 2025, 2026. And you start to see these different transits that are going to come in at that time. And I think that there are different eras, there are different time periods. And 2020 to 2020 now, roughly, right? This time was one piece. And now late 2024 through early 2026, we're sort of in a little bit of a transition period. By the time we get into mid 2026, even early 2026, April, May, we're really standing firmly in a very, very, very different era than we were in 2019. If you think about your life in 2019, and if you think about the world in 2019, in early 2026, which at this point is really just a few months away, it'll seem like there was 20 years between those times or more. Things have been moving and changing so quickly. And there's something about this configuration, the timing right now, that just is compelling me to mention that, because I think that Pluto's influence here is just reminding me of how many of these transits are about the future, about what's next, and how quick moving the energy really is. Okay, I'm actually going to let's leave it for now. Let's focus in, though, on this Mars Uranus part of the transit. Also, I just want to say that I will take a look at the chat when I'm done talking and answer any questions. So feel free to leave any questions in the chat, and I will look at it, once I'm done presenting all of this. And also, if you're watching this later and you want to leave a question in the comments, I'll look at that too. I always at least attend to videos for, a solid 24, 48 hours after they're released and make sure to read all of the comments. So please feel free to leave anything in the chat or the comments, and I will take a look when I'm done with this presentation, and we'll talk about everything then. I also, okay, let's do the astrology. Okay, let's talk about this Mars-Uranus opposition, because this energy is really important and really present this week. So when we have an opposition, as a general rule, it could signify two people, two positions sort of facing off against each other. This isn't always two people. It could very much be two sides of yourself, feeling like you're sort of pulled in two different directions by two different parts of your life, two different people, maybe two different places. You may feel a little bit conflicted in some kind of a way. But often there is this sort of facing off energy, and it can often be against each other. Two people, both of them feeling like something's sort of standing in their way. And one person often personifies one planet and the other person personifies the other. So one person would be playing this part of Mars in Sagittarius, someone who is very, very excited about moving into the future, feeling optimistic, feeling guided, ready to go, ready to expand, ready to develop something, ready for an adventure. The other person more embodying this Gemini and Uranus energy, it feels very, very quick to me. What's nice is that both of these sides want change. Both are moving towards the future. Again, whether this is in yourself or maybe something that you see in your world. The Gemini Uranus person feels, yes, very quick to me, almost like wanting change for change's sake. we're still getting used to this Uranus and Gemini energy. But one thing that I know about Uranus is that it signifies change. And one thing I know about Gemini is Gemini loves change. So it's almost like change in a changey house, right? It's just what happens when those energies meet. It almost makes me feel like the conversation with it just gets everything moving and changing very, very quickly. I don't want to have too many different uh, analogies and metaphors going here at the same time and confuse even myself. But it's like, what does Uranus do when he's given full permission to make changes happen? Part of what's been challenging about Uranus and Taurus is that we don't like change in the Taurus part of the chart. And so it's been disrupting things that we really don't like having disrupted. But this change in Gemini, man, it makes everything so fast. And I think that as we've seen this trine with Pluto come into effect too, the rate of change in the world and with technology and with this new era coming in has been speedy, 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 right? So we could have two people in a confrontation, one sort of looking to expand, the other one sort of wanting to move quickly and make change for change's sake. And again, this could be some part of yourself. It could feel like something's holding you back in some way and that you have to break free from this constraint in order to do things the way you really want to do them. The energy could also just sort of feel like it's shifting in some kind of way. Just to move away from that confrontation analogy, because it's not something that everybody will feel. Let's talk about some other parts of it. You could feel this sort of momentum shift because we have Mars and Sag moving direct, full speed. We have Uranus at 0 degrees moving backwards and about to cross over into Taurus. We're going to talk about that next weekend. So the momentum shift is real too. It could feel like you're being pulled in a couple of different directions at once. Or you could just sort of feel your energy shifting in some way, like you're giving a lot more attention and time to different parts of your life than you were before. Or you're just sort of moving in different directions than you were before. There can be a quick impulsiveness to actions that occur around this time. There's definitely an impulsiveness. Sometimes people can feel compelled to take sort of surprising actions with a transit like this, and they may even surprise themselves with the action. But sometimes that kind of, as much as I want to warn against impulsive actions, I also want to say that sometimes that energy, that quick moving energy, the self-determination, which is also potentially a part of this kind of a transit, is what's needed in order to see what you need. If you can see how you can get out of something that feels like it's been holding you back for a while, sometimes it makes sense to sort of impulsively take that route and free yourself very quickly from the binding. At the same time, it's always good to be mindful, to take our time. And there's something about this Taurus full moon that I'm about to describe that is so good at that the beginning of the week, I think I am going to kind of advise against following those impulses too quickly, because there's more of a grounded thought process that comes in later that's absolutely wonderful for decision making. So be careful with the acting impulsively. Yeah, I mean, everything else is just sort of stuff that often goes with Uranus. The other things that I have that I want to say about this transit, just impatience, right? Things happening that are sudden, that are surprising. Sometimes it's helpful to think about where Uranus is in your chart, the part of your chart that is ruled by Gemini, but not always. But sometimes it could be that the surprises come up there. And, it doesn't really help anyway, because the things that Uranus brings up are usually not the first few guesses you would have. So, say you have Gemini moving through your seventh house, or you have Uranus moving through your seventh house. It's Gemini ruled, you're a Sag rising. You might have various guesses about what that could mean. Oh, maybe I'll meet somebody new, or, yeah. It's like whatever it is with Uranus, the first three things you guess, it probably isn't those things. That's how surprising Uranus, what the surprises that Uranus tends to signify. Just keep in mind to wait a little bit as we move into this Taurus energy. As we get into Tuesday, even, we have the moon in Taurus, which is grounding this energy in such an interesting way. Let me just circle the Taurus full moon on this chart because I want to start talking about that as well here. And I want to make it just as bold as this Uranus opposition, even though we're only talking about one little thing. I actually want it bolder than that. Yeah, that's good. Makes it sort of stand out on the chart, because this is a very powerful, it's a very powerful energy. It's a wonderful, wonderful full moon. The moon is exalted in Taurus. Oh, what I was saying is that once the moon moves into Taurus on Tuesday, that even softens the energy of this Mars-Uranus opposition. So also remember that this Mars-Uranus opposition is a part of a process that's unfolding really into December. So if there's a little irritation or something, you know what? I'm actually taking it off the chart. I just want the moon up there, because this is sort of, it's a passing transit. It's a passing transit, and it's going to come back in and out of focus. So there might be something sort of nudging at you there. There could be some surprises, feeling pulled in different directions. But it's a story that's just beginning to unfold, really, and we're going to continue to be working with it. So I would kind of try to lean into this Taurus full moon energy instead. And that is the main focus of the report, and it is the main focus of the week, and it is what I'm really excited about. Okay, so now we're just talking about this Taurus full moon here. The moon is exalted in Taurus. There is something incredibly, so the moon is at its best here. It's the moon's favorite place to be. Taurus is ruled by Venus. So when the moon is in Taurus, the moon is doing Venus things. The moon loves to do Venus things. So there's a stillness and a groundedness that comes in when we have a full moon in Taurus. It's emotionally calm, right? When we think about the moon and the moon being at its best, our emotions being at their best. But there's a stillness to it. There's a quietness to it. Even though it's a full moon, it's not the same as a Taurus new moon. That's really quiet and still. But there's an emotional calm here that is great for understanding our emotions, right? Because we feel calm enough to tap into them. When sometimes you maybe have a feeling and you're like, do I really feel this way, or am I just nervous? Or am I just tired? Or am I just anxious? Or am I just having doubts about myself? Our emotions can be clouded by so many things. But there's something about a Taurus full moon around this time of year, when we're in Scorpio season, when the sun is in Scorpio and the moon is in Taurus, that is wonderful for clearing away those things that can cloud our emotions, and just leave us with a great understanding that really can be quite great for decision making, because we can really tap into how we feel. It's very grounded. It's very emotionally calm. Full moons in general are great times for sort of harvesting whatever you planted in the Taurus part of your chart 6 months ago. seeing how that has manifested. What were the intentions that you set 6 months ago in this part of your life? Where did you think you were heading, right? So let's say you have Taurus in the eighth house, you're a Libra rising. And 6 months ago, when you think back to last spring, you were thinking about maybe your spouse was working on getting a new job and you were hoping that that was going to come through. And you were um, working on your own transformation when it comes to your relationship with finances, let's say. And really examining limiting beliefs that might be holding you back from earning what you feel you should earn or something. Then maybe now, 6 months later, you might be able to see how setting those intentions, what that manifested. How's that going? It's a good time to check in the Taurus part of your chart and think about the intentions, where you thought you were going 6 months ago, where you actually are now, and how you can adjust those plans for the future, for the next 6 months ahead, from sort of coming down the other side of the mountain as we work towards the next full new moon. How can you get the most from this part of the chart by sort of making changes a little bit to sort of better align with your goals, your dreams, your ambitions in this part of the chart? There's also something about the Taurus full moon that is really just about being present in your body, being present in the present moment, enjoying sense pleasures, right? Taurus really loves to be in a body. So if you have Venus in Taurus or during a Taurus full moon, we can have this experience where sense pleasures are actually a little bit heightened. Sometimes it makes me think about how beautiful the leaves can be at this time of year. I am in the Northeast, and it is kind of prime time for the leaves being extra beautiful. But they say even things like food might taste a little bit better during a full moon in Taurus. Skies might just like things just might look more beautiful to you. Our senses are sort of turned up a bit. And that's how it is for people who have a lot of Taurus energy all the time, especially Venus in Taurus, especially a moon in Taurus or a sun in Taurus. This amazing connection with the senses and with sense pleasures and with enjoying cozy fabrics. So we can really lean in that direction now. And I think Taurus is so great at reminding me, and maybe this is helpful for you as well. It's so this energy and that expression of the energy is so helpful for reminding me that being present really means being in your body. I think we think being present means not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, just thinking about the present. Forget the thinking part altogether, right? Being present is actually being in your body, being aware when your back hurts a little bit and moving to adjust it, like I'm doing right now as I say this. Noticing when you're hungry. Like I wish I could explain it a little bit better. I think that it's something that we all uniquely connect with in different ways for us. But when you're in your body, when you're aware of your body, when you're breathing, when you are keeping your breath in mind, when you're meditating on the breath, however this manifests for you in your life, in your practices, being present actually is about being in the body, not being in the head, because the body is in the present. And when we really tap into that, we can get so many messages and it can be so healing and helpful. And a Taurus full moon is amazing for that, for being present, for being in the body, for enjoying sense pleasures. It can also be a little bit indulgent of a time, and I think it's because we're so enjoying those different pleasures, and also because Taurus is about processing value. So we can have a little bit expensive taste during a Taurus full moon, and we might be inclined to spend a little bit. So indulge in that a little if you can, or if you want to, or if that seems wise, and maybe be on the lookout for that if you're trying to be more careful. Um, but it is also connected to the way in which a Taurus full moon relates to worth and value. Taurus is sort of always assessing the value and the worth of things. And for that reason, if we have a lot of Taurus energy in our chart, if you have a lot of planets in Taurus, a lot of Taurus in your chart, sometimes there can be um, self-esteem, self-worth can be a major theme. I mean, it is for everyone, but it can be for Taurus, especially in like the first part of the life. Just kind of working on that a little bit. Um, we have the ability to really expand feelings of self-worth with a lot of Taurus energy, whether it's in your chart or in the skies. So the fact that this is happening right now brings on the potential for all of us to be able to see more our self-worth, to let that sort of bloom and blossom in some way. And I think allowing yourself to really recognize everything you're really bringing to the table, everything you've done, especially maybe in the Taurus part of your life, in part of your chart, could be helpful. And just expanding self-worth in any way leads to so many good things. It's one of those sort of master keys, like being present, that just unlocks so much, right? When we, when our self-worth improves. There could be something now about sort of reassessing finances, resetting finances in some way, making adjustments to spending or budgeting, for the 6 months ahead. Issues with possessions could surface now, realizing you need to make some sort of purchase in the semi-near future, for example, something like that. Yeah, and I think that it's a great time, like I said, because of that emotional um, security, that emotional wisdom that a Taurus full moon brings. It's a great time to really assess routines in all kinds of parts of your life and think about what you're doing that's supporting your enjoyment of life and your growth, and what routines or habits are holding you back. It's a wonderful time to adjust things, release anything that feels like it's weighing you down, and instead choose something that like sort of helps you feel lighter. And so I think that this is interesting to have this Taurus full moon right on the heels of some of the more challenging aspects involving Uranus, which is more of an ongoing story. So if there's something in your life that feels tough, maybe that feels surprising, there is a way in which this Taurus full moon is providing a little bit of an opportunity to slow down, take care of ourselves, maybe enjoy life a little bit, enjoy the present moment a little bit, appreciate being in a body a little bit, and think over some things. You know, it's a very contemplative full moon. And there's a lot of potential for healing and growth within it. So I think it's a great time to think about really anything that feels like it's pressing on you. So I'm excited to read the comments and reply to them. I also want to say that I just launched a couple new features for members. And I haven't done anything with these features yet, but I do plan to, and I just wanted to mention it here. Sometimes I think about doing videos, but I don't think that the mass public and YouTube would care to see them. Maybe I'm setting up for one of these lives and I just feel like showing you, wow, there's so many different aspects going on right now that I'm going to cover. I'm trying to figure out how to narrow it down. Or maybe I'm at the lake thinking about something about astrology and I just want to say something to uh, like our community here, but I don't think it would be something that I would put up only on YouTube. Or maybe I'm looking at the moon during a full moon and it would be nice just to say hello. So what I'm going to do is I've enabled for members some members only videos, shorts, live streams and long form videos. I highly doubt I will make more than one or two a month, but I just wanted there to be a space for us to connect in a little bit more of a community way, a private way, a place for me to put some of these videos up that would not do well on my channel, right? The general YouTube public doesn't care that I'm really enjoying looking at this Taurus full moon from my porch on Tuesday night or something, right? But you all might, and it might be a really neat time to connect and go live. So I just thought I would enable that option, and that's enabled, and we'll see how that continues to unfold. So I wanted to let you know about that as well. And you can also give it a try and cancel. You also get some priority, if it's not working for you. You also get some priority badges and reply to comments. I'm starting to get a lot of comments and I'm not able to get to all of them, but I will always reply to my member comments, of course. And everything that I've always done on this channel will always be free. I'm never putting any of this behind a paywall. This podcast, the horoscopes, that's never changing. So don't worry about that. It might just be some additional features that I would add on for members, but everything that we've always been doing here will stay this way. Okay, so let me go ahead and look over the chat. Thank you all so much for being here, for saying hello. I honestly love this Taurus full moon. I'm excited about it. I plan to lean into this energy, and I hope you all do too. Yes, well, I see some people asking about questions about their chart specifically, and I do want to say that both of these transits, the Uranus-Mars opposition and the Taurus full moon, I do cover in my November horoscopes, best viewed by your rising sign. So those are on my channel. Check those out. It'll show you where these transits are falling for you, what life areas they're falling in. Again, best viewed by rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, sun sign is the next best option. Yeah, we do have a Mercury retrograde coming up, but don't worry about it. It's an interesting Mercury retrograde. Mercury is basically, I see Gabrielle saying, oh no, Mercury retrograde. But don't worry about it, Gabrielle. Mercury retrograde, it's happen all the time. We have several per year. And this one is a little interesting because it's in Sagittarius. Mercury doesn't love being in Sagittarius. It's debilitated there, and it's with Mars, which makes it extra fiery. Doing a little dance with Uranus, as we described. But I always think, usually, Mercury retrograde type stuff isn't the kind of stuff you would remember, say, 5 years from now, right? It's minor stuff. It's not, but I mean, we're in such an era shifting moment right now that it's just good to note sort of busier intellectual times where a lot of new ideas could be coming in, where the way you think about things could be shifting. And I don't know, I just think it's kind of helpful sometimes to know the timing around those things. So I see someone asking about private readings. At the moment, I'm not offering private readings or consultations to new clients, but I am thinking about opening up for some different options along those lines again soon. So definitely stay tuned. I will post it on my channel when that happens. Yeah, communication can definitely go wacky and during a Mercury retrograde, which is coming up, and even just Mercury in Sagittarius. Again, there's more about that on my horoscopes on my channel, on your horoscopes on my channel. Feel free to check yours out. But yeah, I mean, Sagittarius, when Mercury's in Sagittarius retrograde, we can sort of exaggerate or embellish or say too much, speak too quickly. We can be a little too optimistic sometimes. There can be a lot of words, like people interrupting each other. The miscommunication can come from that. Scorpio Mercury retrograde is almost like so focused and going so deep that it can cause problems, which is funny to me. Like maybe being so focused on what someone says, like taking it too seriously, looking at every word so closely and taking it, fully to heart, or just sort of almost a seriousness that can be about the intellect that could almost work against you. But both of these energies are really important too. We're working through something in the Sagittarius and Scorpio part of our chart. And there's a way in which going through those two energies, I really like it. I like it when Scorpio in December comes out of it because it moves through Scorpio. I'm sorry, I like in December when Mercury comes out of the retrograde because it goes direct through Scorpio and then direct through Sagittarius. And I just feel like it's like understanding it emotionally and then like expanding into it in Sagittarius. I love that expansive nature of Sagittarius. It's a great way to end the transit with Mercury sort of then moving direct, being free from these oppositions with Uranus and having this like new fresh perspective with sort of like higher ceilings on the future, greater possibilities. So it may be a little bit of a process, but nothing serious, nothing to worry about. And in the end, it's good. I'm reading some comments from different people. Oh, I like to hear your comment, Gina. And I think, yes, I do think so. I think you will, Gina. And I think that, believe that, feel into that energy and it's more likely. I think the worthiness expanding right now is kind of interesting and right on time for it's so important that when we want something for our future that we really believe we can get it, that we can kind of tap into the energy of doing it, of what having it would be like. We have to be able to imagine something before we create it. Usually, sometimes things happen to us in a good way that we couldn't imagine. For sure, things go beyond our expectations. But often, like let's say you wanted a new career, it would really help to be able to picture yourself in that career, to know that you are capable of doing the job. And then as you get your training, picturing yourself doing it more and more, believing that you're going to do it, being able to kind of tap into the energy of what having that job will be like. And so I think if you're doing the opposite, if you're going, I'm not sure I'm ever going to get this, not everybody gets this job who wants it. If you're working against yourself, it would really be powerful, right? And I think it's the same for anything that we want, relationships or our own personal growth. You could probably think about some area where you've been stuck for a while and notice how did you really believe in yourself in that area, and sometimes things take time, but just saying, I think being able to believe that we can get that thing, being able to kind of feel into the energy of it and that it's for us, it is really, really helpful and supportive toward getting there. See? And then as I continue reading, someone says, true love doesn't exist anymore. Don't say things like that. Don't say things like that. You're working in the wrong direction. Oh, I love someone saying they've worked so hard to sort of rebuild their life from 2019. Linda, I'm just wishing you all the best and recognizing your efforts and the hard work of the last few years. I like people trying to tell the person not to. I like people saying that they try to tell the person not to say they don't believe in true love, that's sad and that they shouldn't believe that. Hi, Jam. Hi, Jam. I'm excited to see you. Yeah, people are talking about the red and the blue lines. So I use whatever kind of colors, right? When I do mine, I use any colors that I want. I just kind of guess at it. But for the most part, When you look at a chart, they're going to be set up with these red and blue lines. And a lot of people do the fainter and the thicker, like I do too. So basically, here's the deal. Easy transits are blue, sextiles and trines. Harder aspects, more difficult aspects are red, squares and oppositions. A conjunction actually isn't a transit, it's its own separate thing. So we're only talking about sextiles, trines, squares, and oppositions here. I don't use a bunch of different, I'm not using semi-sextiles and semi-squares, and I don't even use inconjunctions. I keep it really simple. And not to say I won't add in other aspects, but my feeling is that there's so much to work with just with this that I keep a focus on the major aspects, the major planets. And personally, that has given me plenty to talk about and think about. Adding more in doesn't really help. At the same time, I do work with Chiron, for example. I do use the outer planets, even though I use a lot of Hellenistic astrology techniques. Anyway, back to these lines. For the most part, the red lines are a more challenging aspect, oppositions and squares. And the blue lines are an easier aspect, trines and sextiles. The closer the planets are to the perfection of that transit, the thicker the line is, right? So we have Jupiter at 25 degrees, Saturn at 25 degrees. Look how thick that line is. This is almost an exact trine, right? Whereas here we have the North Node at 16 and the Sun at 13. So see, the line is a little bit faint. And that helps you just be able to look at the chart real quick and your eye go to the most major and important transits as they're coming into alignment. If that makes sense, I hope that answered your question. Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to know. It's interesting when people say, like, how do I start? How do I start to learn astrology? And I think, of course, there are ways to do it where people are like, you learn all of the signs, you learn all of the houses, you learn the planets and the points, and sure. But I also think just jump in. Just start watching all this astrology stuff, enjoy the astrology stuff, look at the chart a little bit, challenge yourself just to learn a little bit as you go. That's all we're all doing. That's all I'm doing. I am continually learning astrology from books that I read, from other astrologers. We're all learning and growing always. So I know it's so interesting to be like, where exactly do I start? I do think that understanding the 12 signs well is super helpful. I do have some videos on my channel, a whole series that I did with my friend Corinne, who's also an astrologer, where we went through all 12 of the signs and we just did, light aspects, traits, and shadow aspect traits of those zodiac signs. Can be helpful. We all tend to have, before you know astrology, just knowing a bit about astrology, most people tend to have a few signs they know really well and a few they don't know at all. Learning them more and more is helpful. You can study them during their sun season. Like right now we're in Scorpio sun. Really learning about Scorpio now could be helpful and well-timed. But I think just jumping in, not being hard on yourself for not understanding all of it. If you learn one thing from a video, you learn something from the video. Great. You're learning and you're learning more astrology. I also think it's just really important with astrology to not take it too seriously. This is one tool for life. We have so many tools, and some are a lot more powerful than astrology, really. Mindfulness, there are several things I can think of that have been more beneficial to me in my life than astrology. But it is a really interesting tool for introspection, for personal growth. And I think when you start to study astrology seriously and you see how accurate it tends to be, it can be very easy to get sort of carried away with the study of it, and really be kind of obsessing over astrology or worried or feeling anxious about it. And that's a good time to know to take a little bit of a break, because I don't think it's something that is meant to be taken that seriously. I don't think there was ever the intention that we use it that way. It's sort of like the weather. It's one thing that's happening in the background. I mean, the fact that that today is a beautiful day outside is awesome. I'm excited that the weather is nice. Everything to my day. And it's the same thing with astrology. You know, it's there, it's interesting, it's such an interesting tool that we can use, but we don't want to take it too seriously. Um, yeah, I love people asking personal questions. I would just say watch the horoscope by rising sign. I always recommend astro.com for getting your chart. If you, it's a free site where you can get your chart. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. But these days there are so many different ways to get your chart. It used to be so hard. I remember when I was like a teenager learning about this stuff, just trying to find out what your rising sign was hard, right? Now there's a million different places where you could get your chart. So get your chart, find out your rising sign, and watch horoscopes for your rising sign rather than your sun sign. That is a great way to find out different things and what's going on with you astrologically. And I think also just learning about your primary triad is a great place to start in terms of that introspection work. You know, your sun, your moon, and your rising. Putting those three together, there's a lot of information. Oh, you're also welcome. Thank you for the thank yous. Yeah, full moon in Taurus is beautiful. Lean into it. A lot of Scorpio in your chart too. Yes, it's going to be a really interesting Scorpio season. Definitely check out the November horoscopes. We have these grand water trines coming together. I spoke about them in the last couple of these reports as well. Oh yeah. Um, okay. I think I've looked through all the comments. Um, I'm going to attach a couple other videos here that you might like if you enjoyed this video. Um, Thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful week. It's going to be a beautiful Taurus full moon. And thank you all for watching. See you again soon. I'll be back on Friday.